And our thoughts are creating the reality. If those thoughts are based on insecurity or fear on any level, then that's the world we create. We may not be doing it consciously, it may be arising out of the subconscious, but it's still something that we are creating. And until we can begin to understand that, then we're not really going to have any incentive to do anything about it, to change what we're creating, until we realize how powerful these thoughts are. So if you think, and I told this story, this is just so simple and so obvious, about being in an elevator in Seattle, going from the top floor down, two other guys in the lift one of them complaining about spraining his ankle skiing, moaning and groaning all the way down. The elevator came to the ground floor. They went off to the left, wherever. I went to the exit the other way. And after 3 steps, my ankle collapsed.
Mm.
And I had a sprained ankle.
Mm.
And for three steps, I was limping with this ankle. And then I realized, of course, it's not mine. It's a bastard in the elevator. And the moment I realized it, the pain disappeared. That's just a simple example of how easy it is for us to take on the drama from another. We aren't separate. We aren't isolated individual beings. We're all connected. We're all part of one great consciousness. Obviously, the physical forms are separate, but the energetic body is not separate. It's a part of the greater collective. And if the greater collective believes in some bullshit virus, then it's very difficult for you not to believe in it. It's not something you consciously choose to believe or not believe. It is the conditioned mind that is so wrapped up in itself, so attached to all phenomena, believing it to be theirs, that is the problem. And you can't think for yourself, you can't act independently, free of the collective, if you're subconsciously still responding. But how do you know if you're responding or not? Well, clearing is a path that is incredibly powerful because it gives you the opportunity to notice what's happening in the body. Sprained ankle, guy in the elevator, that's easy, you know. But there's a lot of stuff that's not quite so obvious. Huge amount of information in the collective that isn't quite so obvious. And we're affected by it all of the time, whether we believe it or not, whether we understand it or not. So much of what we take seriously, much of what we take personally, of course, has got nothing to do with us at all. Never had, never will. It's only got anything to do with us while we continue to identify with it, while we continue to give it energy. And so then we can see how our thoughts do create our world. And if there's stuff happening in your world that is uncomfortable, then don't be blaming anyone outside of the self. Recognize that it's a product of your own making. And if that's the case, then you can do something about it. But if you continue to remain a victim, you can't do anything about it. You just wallow in self-pity and complain and go along like little sheep without any power whatsoever, which is not who you are. Your power has been eroded by the conditioning that is a part of the condition of entry into this particular planet and reality. But it is not who you are. But you won't find out who you are by digging the hole deeper, by taking yourself seriously, by blaming, by judging. And we won't be able to play our part in supporting any quantum shift in consciousness. All the time we remain victim. All the time we remain asleep. All the time we blame and we judge. As I said earlier, though, you're not going to be empowered to do much about that. It depends very much on who you believe yourself to be. Who you actually are at any given point in time will determine what you can or you can't do. It'll determine where your interests lie, where your strengths lie, where your weaknesses lie, where your addictions lie. They are who we believe ourselves to be. It's this great big package of information with all of these different little pieces in it. And to try and navigate your way through that by doing something about it is impossible. So we try not to do anything other than notice and accept without any blame, without any judgment, without any reaction whatsoever. So when we look at clearing, we imagine that we're working with an issue. It doesn't matter how big or small, important, not important, intense, subtle that issue is, but we believe we're working with an issue. And we believe in the early stages of the journey that there are many issues that we've got that accumulate over time that we associate with, and we have to work through those issues by understanding and accepting. That's what we think is happening. What is really happening is that the information that we're experiencing is all the same. We looked at it yesterday when we looked at the electromagnetic spectrum. The energetic field is divided into different names according to the frequency range that we have given it. It doesn't mean anything, of course, outside of the names that we've given to these information fields, different frequencies. But it's just an expanding range of information containing umpteen thousands of frequencies, often grouped together in little packages, which we make sense of by giving it a name, a certain range of feeling, which we've been looking for in our space clearing exercises. We specify naturally occurring underground water, for example. We specify magnetic field. We specify electromagnetic radiation, microwave radiation. So what we're doing when we specify is we're selecting a narrow range of frequencies that we're looking for, and then the dowsing rod, of course, will indicate when we found that. Then we change slowly the way the body relates to that information. So we start to embrace more and more frequencies, and so that we can dance with a broader range of information. So we remain victims only to the degree we still think that we're working with this information and we have to embrace it. When we're clearing or being cleared, we work with particular issues, which essentially is just a particular range of frequency information. Frequencies, information are interchangeable, the words are interchangeable. And so we're gradually trying to embrace more and more and more. If you continue your practice, it will become obvious at some point that it doesn't matter where the information exists, it doesn't matter what it says, how it makes us feel, It's all the same. It's all fine. The only judgment that is imposed upon different frequencies is that based upon our own experience. How does it feel? If it feels uncomfortable, this is bad. There is no bad energy. There is no good energy. It's all just energy. It's all just information. And it's all the same. So we should be able to reach a point, and this is the whole point of tonight, is that we should be able to reach a point quite quickly when we stop this idea that we are peeling the onion in order to get to the secret truth and bullshit, whatever, is that we should get to a point where we realize it's all the same. It's all just information. And it's through the personality's interpretation that we label it as good or bad, right or wrong. Nice, not nice. This, not that. Hot, cold. But it's all information. It doesn't have good and bad, right and wrong outside of our interpretation of it. It's all the same. And of course, when you get to it's all the same, then really it just doesn't matter anymore. It's just information. The challenge that most people have trying to accept that is that they believe that if you accept it's all information without blame or judging, without labeling good, bad, right, wrong, then we actually condone all of the negative aspects of society. We agree with them, we support them, because we're no longer fighting against them. But that's not the case. When you're no longer fighting against them and you've developed the capacity to accept them, that waveform gradually collapses because you're not feeding it any longer. So then you don't have to deal with it in the future. So good, bad, right, wrong ceases to arise in your world. And then your world, of course, is a very different place. And I think the more people who can reach that place, the quicker you can do it, the more powerful we will, as a collective, become, because your positive nature, your compassionate heart, is this huge energetic field. We went through it in a meditation the other night, or Friday, or whenever it was, I don't know. When your heart expands to include all, no exceptions, no barriers, no made up lines in the sand beyond which you don't feel comfortable. It's all the same. And when it's all the same in here, of course, you cease to project this polarized consciousness out there, and it will stop showing up, so you don't have to deal with it. So I would encourage you to try to just say, oh, this is just stuff. It's all stuff, you know, instead of getting involved, instead of finding little pieces of information that still trigger off a significant emotional response in you. It's all the same. Do not give any of it, anything that shows up, any energy whatsoever. That's going to be a challenge, of course, because some of you still have 1 or 2 feet in the old world, and so you've got to relate to that world. Moving into a different world doesn't mean to say you're separating yourself from the old world. You're actually expanding your ability to be in both worlds. We had a guy, an engineer, who with his family was thinking of coming to the month-long workshop we had in Vietnam 11 or 12 years ago. But he was concerned, he was afraid that if he went, he would change so much that he wouldn't be able to fit in at work anymore. He wouldn't feel comfortable, wouldn't relate. He changed all right. When he got back, he certainly did change. But he changed in such a way that so many people who he'd never spoken to before in the company were asking his advice. A lot more people were open up to him, talking to him. So rather than what he feared, it'd been quite the opposite. So when we fear something, it prevents us from doing something. But fear is only a lack of understanding, a lack of awareness. What we do try and do through the clearing is understand, and through understanding, embrace and accept.